Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening. And let's have conversations about what truth is.
And now fast forward to the early 21st century when we just don't need the vast majority of the population.
Because
the future is about developing more and more sophisticated technology, like, again, artificial intelligence, bioengineering. Most people don't contribute anything to that, except perhaps for their data. And whatever people are still doing, which is useful, these technologies increasingly will make redundant and will make it possible to replace the people.
Interesting. The World Economic Forum, that was Yuval Noah Harari. He's been often cited as the key intellectual architect for the concepts behind the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The World Economic Forum, which happens in Davos, and matter of fact, it's happening right now, and they're talking about taxing water and creating an environment where people become more useful idiots or slaves to a system that they get to design. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because there's a lot of things going on right now that we can't understand. There's a lot of things that are being engineered in such a way that we feel like we're not in control. We have high crime rates, and we have judges that are putting people on the streets in order to commit crimes against people. We have drugs all over the country. And if you go back in time, whether it's drugs or guns, most of that is put on the streets by none other than our own government. It was designed to hurt certain communities, same as Planned Parenthood was designed to kill off Black people. It was eugenics. It was the ability to say, listen, this is a right, and we want you to kill your babies. But there's more, it's a more sinister environment than even what I'm talking about right now. You'd be hard pressed not to look at what the World Economic Forum has done and pay attention to the words that they use. Is that the people aren't useful anymore, other than providing us with data. Now, the one thing I can say about Yuval Noah Harari, besides being an evil, evil man, is that he truly believes that most of the world is here to serve him. This is the same guy that said that he could become a god himself, and that he would replace any of the fairy tales that he says exist in faith, that God's not real, that they can change anything. Now, in large part, there has been a push around the entire world to change the prospects of what reality represent. They're changing it. They're saying that we don't know what a woman is. We don't want to know what a man is. People can pretend and be whatever they want to be. And that sexualizing children and pedophilia, these are all normal constructs, even though we know that they're not normal constructs. They push it in such a way that you can go back in history, and this is the same thing that has happened over and over and over again. There's always this smarter class that feels like they can just do whatever they want and act with impunity. And normally, those people, sooner or later, the people turn on those individuals. But let's talk about how dangerous what they're doing is. I want to talk about U.S. fertility rates for a minute. And this is a stark deal. U.S. fertility rates in the U.S. hit another low. In 2025, the U.S. general fertility rate fell to 53.1, the lowest level ever recorded. Japan, South Korea, and Germany have been shrinking for years. Japan has been shrinking for years. South Korea's population has already started to decline, and Germany would be shrinking without immigration. Now the UK joins them. Deaths will outnumber births every single year starting in 2026. No economy grows without people. No pension system survives without young workers. No culture persists without families having children. This is the slowest civilizational crisis in human history. And if you look at this chart looks and shows you the fertility index which 2025 record low, 53.1%. You go back just to 2007. That literally is 20 years ago. And it was at almost 70%. So you look at the replacement rate, the replacement level is 2.1. That's that line, dotted line on the right-hand side that you see. The US is at 1.62, UK is at 1.49, Germany is 1.36, Spain is at 1.23, Italy is at 1.24, Japan is at 1.2, and South Korea is at 0.7. So we're in danger of everything the World Economic Forum said coming true. We're in danger of everything that they put into place actually coming to fruition. And they did it without a single shot being fired. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have wars all over the world. It just means that there are really evil people like the World Economic Forum, like these people that are inside of the World Economic Forum that are pushing buttons and deciding the fate of humanity. And that should concern you. We look at the laws that are placed before us all over, whether it's the cameras or the technology that are put in cars and planes. And we talked a little bit with General Holt, and that we're in this kind of free fall, and we're just watching degradation, and we're watching the destruction of our country happen right before our eyes. Now let's take that a little bit further, and let's break down the birth rate in the United States from 2023. So nearly 10% of all births, I'm going to put this up. Nearly 10% of all births in the United States in 2023 came from illegal immigrant mothers. So let's go ahead and play this 3.
Of all births in the United States in 2023, nearly 10% of them came from illegal immigrant mothers. That's according to new data from Pew Research. The data shows that the 320,000 of the 3.6 million babies born in the U.S. in 23 were anchor babies who would not qualify for birthright citizenship if President Trump's executive order is upheld by the Supreme Court. The court did hear arguments recently, no decision yet, but the next time someone tells you this is a small issue, well, it's not, especially when you combine this data with the birthright tourism that goes on with the Chinese billionaires and others who abuse our laws and our visa system, all to have babies who are simply born in the United States.
So what's the toll on an economy in a country when this happens? And they knew this. They knew this when they actually displaced generation after generation in the UK. That was the breeding ground for this. And we can talk about the things that have happened in other countries, and that France has been overrun by just really disgusting people that have made the crime rate go through the roof and really destroyed a society that was beautiful at one time. But I want you to look at this post. This is a post put up by Greg Bovino. He's a former deportation chief. He says illegal alien households, and this gets to statistics. 59% use welfare. U.S. born, 39%. So 39% of illegals that are U.S. born are on welfare. It's not gratitude; it's pure "you owe me" entitlement. Mass deportations aren't about policy; they're attitude adjustments. And let's go ahead and, if we can, just pop this up and so we can see it just a little bit. So this shows you that U.S. born headed households, 39% of people that are born in the United States, and that does include people that are born that have gotten citizenship based on being born here. 39% of those people are on welfare. 59% of illegal headed households are on welfare. And then legal immigrants, legal. It means they come here legally, they come 52%. So you have 52%, over 50% of the people that we bring to this country come to this country with no ability to contribute to society, and they are on welfare and they abuse the system. So they're here legally and they've found ways around it in order to get access to our tax dollars so that they can live off of the American people. And 59% of people that don't belong here at all are getting access to your hard-earned tax dollars. So every hour that you put into work, every hour, 56 cents on every single dollar you earn goes to people that are not in your family, not in your community. These are people that, frankly, they're saying are entitled to your tax dollars. And every year they want to take more off the bone. They want to find new ways to take more from you. So you take a system that you have 10% of the population, 59% of which will end up on welfare, and 10% of the new births and that is going to in other words, people dying is going to outpace people being born. And all of a sudden you start to realize that you could give them 95 cents on every dollar and it wouldn't be enough. This is what happens when you have people like Yuval Noah Harari, World Economic Forum, and these psychopaths that walk in and steal the life and the opportunity for your kids and your grandkids. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican or an independent. If you are an American, you should be paying attention to everything that these demons are doing to you. And unfortunately, they had to do it under some moniker. So they did it under the Democrat Party. So the Democrat Party, in tune with Democrats that are running as Republicans, that are operating as a uniparty, are betraying the very people they say they represent. They don't come back into the community and say, hey, what do you need? When's the last time anyone from Congress, anyone from the legislature gets back into the community and says, tell me what you need? And then goes and actually passes laws that benefit people in our community. It's always take more meat off the bone and destroy the very fiber of what our communities represent. They think you're stupid. They think you're stupid. They don't just think you're stupid. They see you exactly how Yuval Noah Harari sees you, that you're just an inconvenience. You're an ant. And you got to make a decision at some point that you're not going to allow them to treat you as if you're the dog that they get to kick. I talked a lot about this before, but I want to put this up. This is a video. Let's go ahead and play this. This is a 402 acres purchased to build a city in Texas. Play it.
402 acres of beautiful scenery. Welcome to the future of living. Welcome to Epic City. Nestled in the heart of Josephine, Texas. It is about 20 miles and 20 minutes from Epic.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Welcome to Epic 2.0. Epic City is more than just a neighborhood. It's a way of life. A meticulously designed community that brings Islam to the forefront. A community that blends with nature, crafted to elevate your living experience. With single-family homes, multi-family townhomes and apartments, senior living, and in the heart a mosque and a school.
I don't care if you're Muslim. I don't care. We're being told that we cannot pray in school. You can't pray on the football field. We're being told that, no, we're going to run away from religion altogether. Now, they have these accommodations for Muslims, most of which come from foreign countries, come here and decide that they want to just take over communities. They want to change the laws, change the culture, change everything that we represent while taking 59 cents on every dollar, or 59% of their people being on welfare. And you'd say, well, we didn't say that it was all Muslims or Arabs. So let me just tell you what happens. And I know this is what happens because I was right in the middle of it. I got to watch it up front and personal. So you have an imam, or you have a Arab that has 6 wives, 7 wives, 8 wives. He doesn't recognize any of the systems they have in the United States, but he's willing to use every single one of them. And when we talk about using every single one of them, you have to look at the 6 houses or 7 houses. So let's say they have 7 wives. They have one that lives in the home. That's be their first wife. And then each one of the other homes is subsidized by your tax dollars. So that one family could be collecting almost $500,000 in benefits for his family. And he could have 20 kids, 7 houses. 6 houses, 5 houses, 8 wives. Does it matter? And this is a real problem. This is actually happening in our country. And so you have these entire communities, because they don't have to play by the rules. You have entire communities that, it's not just Arab communities, it's Jewish communities, it's all these other communities that happen out there that are allowed to get access to your tax dollars. You have become a slave to them. Now, on top of that, you got to, every time you drive down the street, they're going to make sure that you're held responsible for speeding and you got there too fast, $75. Oh my gosh, you want to build a new road? We're going to make it a tollway. It's $6 to drive if you want to get home on time. If you don't, you have to sit in this line for 2 hours. The entire system is designed to cater to people who, frankly, should not be catered to. It's backwards. And you want to know why divorce rates are high? You want to know why parents can't take care of their children? They can't take care of their children because they can't afford to. And the reason why they're not having 2.1 or 2.3 or 2.5 children is because they can't afford it. Because 59% of the people that come here illegally get free access to free healthcare, free childcare, free, while we charge the average American an absorbent amount. And we thought that the Affordable Care Act would actually be affordable. We thought that that was actually going to lower rates and make sure people had access to healthcare. And you know what it did? It was just another grift on the American people. Healthcare rates are up 2,100% since the Affordable Care Act was passed in 2012. 2,100%. That same year, they passed the Smith-Month Modernization Act, which allowed for the media to lie to the people. And so they keep saying that these are these bills that they're putting across, the Affordable Care Act, right? The SAVE Act. They can't even get the SAVE Act actually passed. They can't get things that actually help the American people passed, or that give them the ability to get control of the steering wheel again. No, God forbid that happen. Because they'll just say that, stealing elections is not really a real thing. It's just conspiracy theories. And they will gaslight the American people and lie to the American people as you go through over and over again the statistics that show the crimes that are committed, the amount of money that comes out of your household is going to people that don't deserve it, while your communities basically go to shit. And your children, oh my gosh, let's hope that they get to go get a quality education. We can't have that because they're being taught social justice. They're being taught all of these different things inside the school that have nothing to do with math and science. And let's just talk about science. Now we don't even know what the definition of a woman is. It's a captured society that allows for chaos to exist, and you're trying to figure out which hole do I plug first. Everyone's miserable. Everyone is miserable at the same rate, except for the people at the top that are making all these rules and pressing it down to our communities and trying to destroy everything that we represent, the ethos of our entire nation. And I would just say to you, why? Well, let's go back to the World Economic Forum and Yuval Noah Harari saying, well, we're useless. We're no longer needed. We need to eliminate 85 to 90% of the population in the world. And then it all starts to make sense. We put the red ants with the black ants. We put them out there. We shake the jar and we sit from above and watch it like some gladiatorial contest. That's in essence what we're dealing with right now. And as we try to reset things, no. They have people, as people try to crawl out of this cage, crawl out of this jar. They have people that are just beating them back in, like Kyle Clark and this Quentin guy. You have media that beat good people like myself with bullshit narratives that don't exist. And the sky is falling and saying you're violent while they create and push down violence on our communities. And it's so easy to see, but you're not allowed to talk about it. And on top of the media going out there and beating people that are good to death and making sure that they silence anyone that would talk about the things that I'm talking about with you right now. They also have social media, and they put these constructs up to say, now we're not going to let you talk today. We're not going to let you talk about truth today. We're not going to let you inform the public about who's stabbing them over and over and over again. We're in a critical place right now. Critical place. Probably the most critical I've ever seen society. I mean, look, civilization. This is as bad as it could have been if you would have gone back to the Ottoman Empire or the fall of Rome. This is worse than that. Because rather than being at the epicenter of a small area, you're talking about the collapse of society globally that is being run by deviants and evil people. And we can see it and we call it evil, yet still allowed to stick around. We haven't decided that it's worth fighting for. We haven't decided that our children are worth protecting. We still send them to the same teachers, hoping that when they come back, now we can just re-instruct them, no, your teacher is wrong. But it's not enough. Because in this glass, they're able to convince all the people that are really either stupid or don't have parents that even care to look up long enough to tell their kids, hey, what they're doing to you is wrong. So one by one, they pick off parts of our society. And then because they own the keys to the kingdom, they just steal elections and make it look like it's something and then tell you, no, what you're seeing is not real. That's not real. What I'm telling you is real. You have to listen to me. And if we go back to 2020 and we look at COVID and we look at the things that they did there, I saw that. I mean, it was easy to see. Anyone that had traveled all over the world, which I had, who had a front row seat to some of the improprieties that were committed by our own intelligence community in those other countries, it was so easy to see what they were doing right here in the United States. It was an operation. And at the time, if you want to, let me just go back and recap that for you. They said it's 2 weeks to slow the spread. You want to save, we can just save one grandma. 2.5 million people later, they put on high flow ventilators and fed them a drug that had a 100% success rate of killing every single person that was on it, remdesivir, within 5 years. But you didn't hear that. And then we had people, Dr. Corey, who testified in Congress that ivermectin was a miracle drug. He testified in Congress that it was a miracle drug and that he had a 100% success rate when people took ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and others, prophylactics, in place of some of these other drugs or even vaccines that were on the let's do it very quickly. And you knew you were in trouble when YouTube took the video down and wouldn't let anybody see Dr. Corey speak when he was speaking to Congress. So now the American people are being gaslit from the medical community, who then said that there's a consensus around the fact that we need a vaccine. And let's not forget that the government lied about that too. They told us that if you get a vaccine, that you will not get COVID. Was that true? No, it was a lie. And it harkens back to the time that Fauci said that you could look across the room and catch AIDS. That was in the early 1980s. It's one of the first videos I put up about Fauci, and one of the first indications that you were dealing with a diabolical man that would just as soon lie to your face as he would take a sip of coffee. Let's go back to 2020. Let's go back to the number of people that died in 2020, died in 2021. And they made us wear a mask. And they told us you had to wear a mask. And yet all the experts said that you can't, wearing a mask is not going to do anything for you. It can't protect you. So now we have a mask being worn and kids having to wear these masks in schools. And what do? We learn more about other things that happen as a result. We learned that they're grooming our children inside the schools. We couldn't figure out how it was happening. How are our children that grow up inside of a conservative environment in a conservative community going and turning into these circus clowns that want to cut off their penis and take, drugs that change their identity? How did it happen so fast? Well, it didn't. It was like a sleeper cell. They just released it all at the same time. And in essence, we find ourselves in a place where we're almost unrecognizable as a country. Well, is it hard to see? No, it's not hard to see. It's not hard to see, and it's not hard to understand either. I mean, what we're going through right now is highly predictable. It's predictable because Yuval Noah Harari told us what was happening years ago. And as we sit here and try to figure it all out and say, okay, what is the next slide? The media is out there beating you over the head, telling you you're a conspiracy theorist, like Quentin Young did in the article that we went over yesterday. Unbelievable. I'm a podcaster, not a technologist. I'm not a successful businessman. They get to dictate and tell you who I am. And on top of telling you who I am, they get to tell you what the truth is. The summer of love. Oh, by the way, you don't have to wear a mask. You don't have to stay 6 feet apart if you're in the process of going through. That was, by the way, Stephanie. So did everybody send the thing for Stephanie? Did we send that to her? Did we send her the link? All right. So maybe I'll send it to her. I'll send it to her as well. Okay, where was I? Sorry, while I was actually talking to you, Stephanie Lambert was calling in. You know, I don't really know what to say other than how many times can they lie to you and get away with it? How many times can they have two people in the same case, as we talked about yesterday in Nebraska, where one judge gives the person what they should have gotten, which is 50 years for pedophilia, and the other judge gives the other person that was in the same exact case probation? How does that happen? And you know that it has more to do with somebody scratched somebody's back, and you're going to go back, which we're researching right now, is where did these families come from? And you know, one came from a prominent family who happens to be a part of the club. And so we got to make sure he doesn't go to jail for 50 years. That's what our system has become. They lie about everything. And yet they try to convince you that I'm lying. They try to convince you that somewhere along the line, I'm the crazy one. I'm the crazy one. And every time they get caught in a new lie, they just call up social media platforms and say, hey, stop him from talking. He's an anti-Semite. Stop him from talking. He's a racist. We saw innocent people die. We saw people get burned alive in the summer of love in 2020. We saw Eric Coomer say, hey, don't worry about it. Trump's not going to win. I made sure of it. We saw me talk about infiltrating Antifa journalists. And had I not been up elk hunting and had I not gone through this process where somebody sent me an article that had him as I probably still would not have uncovered Eric Coomer. I wouldn't have put two and two together. Maybe I would have. Maybe it would have come to me that, hey, Dominion. Wait, that guy worked for Dominion. All right, let's do some research. But here's a Satanist drug addict that has started in this process dating all the way back to 2005, the genesis of Smartmatic taking control of our elections inside the United States on the heels of building a system that has the ability to steal elections across the country. And you'd be hard pressed, by the way, not to trace everything back to Sequoia voting systems and the chief architect, Eric Coomer. You'd be hard pressed to. Matter of fact, I know for a fact that there are people in the government right now that are looking at all of the nexuses that are connected to this person and his connections into Serbia and Mongolia and China and Romania. I could go down the line. And his connections to other broader intelligence agencies and the people that are in it. The fact that his brother works for the intelligence, works for the semi-quasi defense contracting, all of it kind of ties back in together. And you can see all the pieces. And yet the good people out there are sitting here running around going, this can't be true. I don't want it to be true. I don't want it to be true. But it's true. It's true. Sorry, guys, I'm going to send you this really quick. That's from Stephanie. We see a rotted judiciary everywhere. We see legislatures across the country enslave the people more and more and more. And they push for laws that have nothing to do with anyone in the community saying, I need more of that. And yet they keep finding dollars to fund these programs. But they're not funding education. And every time that there's a budget cut, after they got done just passing 30 laws that add up to another $400 million, they walk back to the people and they go, you know what? You know what? I can't, we can't find any money for Johnny. Keep in mind, education expenses in Colorado, specifically and around the country, are going like this. They're going like it's a steep hill. And yet 20% of kids these days are now homeschooled. They're running away from the education system. But teachers are saying, hey, I need more money. And teachers' unions, which are rotted to the core, that are directly connected to the same people overseas, that are saying, hey, listen, we don't need to teach these kids. We need to make them dumb. We need to make them stupid. We need to make them not have any ability to protect themselves, because young people are actually the key. They're the key. They're the most dangerous thing in all the things that are happening right now, because frankly, they've had enough. So I stood up with this Coomer deal. I stood up in the last 6 years. It has been unbelievable. We have the first judge on this case was Marie Avery Moses, a disgusting, radical leftist, Antifa activist who marched in the George Floyd Antifa protest holding a sign that said that had it been my kid, I would have burned the whole place down. And got put on this case by none other than Jared Polis. Jared Polis literally and got put her on the bench in March. First case she got was mine. She overturned and did what's called a sua sponte. In the first status hearing, she told the Coomer lawyers that, hey, if you want me to reconsider that motion that was filed or that was written by the previous judge, just let me know. Before the ink was dry, she had approved overruling a 20-year sitting judge. Fast forward to a hearing as if it was scripted out of the Nazi communist playbook. She says, you have a probable falsity. Probable falsity that I probably lied. No fact for it, and really no procedural ability to violate the anti-SLAPP rules of how a case is supposed to be heard. But that didn't stop her. That didn't stop her from opening it up and saying, you get a deposition. And by the way, you guys can only depose Eric Coomer for 2 hours and you get Joe Oltmann for 24. And they hammered me for 24 hours in deposition after deposition after deposition. Then they sued everyone around me. And what can only be described as one of the most kooky things ever. They then went on a campaign to go out into the media and slander me over and over and over again and use that bully stick and use people in the government in order to come after me, to take from me what was never theirs. Then they went and made sure that I got fined for not giving up the people that gave me access to information because I'm a journalist. But that didn't stop the court from lying. It didn't stop the court from just throwing out the rule of law. Why would it? And as you see what happened in the Trump case, as you see what happened in the Coomer case, as we saw the Fox News settle for $787 million, $787 million, an amount of money that frankly was so absurd that it was meant to chill everyone around the country. It was a signal. The haves, the people that make all these decisions that are shaking up these jars, the liars that have just murdered 2.5 million Americans, those people, and use the apparatus of healthcare in order to destroy the lives of countless millions of others with the vaccine injuries. These same people said, we need to silence Mr. Oltmann. And it wasn't the list that I first got that says, Joe, you're on the top 5 most dangerous people to the Biden administration. It wasn't that list. And it wasn't the list that came after that that says, these are the lists that were sent to X and to Facebook and that they wanted to silence these individuals. And I was number 2, number 3. And they went and they talked to people inside the organization and they said, cancel his account. And so they did. At the same time, they made sure they defamed me in every publication around the world. Over 7,000 of them. Now I came forward, was able to prove all the fraud of Eric Coomer and who Eric Coomer was. And Eric Coomer did it to himself. The emails out of the Patrick Byrne case were so damning against Dominion voting system. The same information, by the way, that they had access to in the Fox News deal, but they had to keep that quiet. So the judge in that case in federal court says, I'm going to put a protective order. No one's allowed to see this information. So we knew right then that it wasn't about truth. It was about stopping the American people from seeing the truth. But yet they can see through it as clear as day. They can see that they're slaves. They can see that they've been taken advantage of. They can see that they have become the laughingstock of these people that sit above them and bark orders at most of society. And for 6 years, I traveled around the country with people like David Clements. I watched as good people like Stephanie Lambert, Matt DePerno. I don't even want to talk about Mike Lindell. I think that the silliness of the PCAPs by itself was problematic. But I saw things very clearly over time. I was able to see that, hey, why are they meeting in November? And why did the person that they met with in November at Tomatley with what is his name? The crazy guy's house, Lynn Wood, why is it that that's the guy that they got chosen for the audit in Arizona? They should have known something, because then he had the reports, and then he's the one that sent me the report that said, Joe, these are absolutely fraudulent elections. And then the attorney in Maricopa County for the Senate in Maricopa County, in the state Senate for Arizona, got access to that report and said, no, you're not allowed to print any of this. And then Doug Logan, the guy that they met with in November in Tomatley, November of 2020, in Tomatley, November 3rd is when the election had. They were meeting with Doug Logan in November of 2020. Lynn Wood was, with a ton of other people, Sidney Powell, a bunch of other people that were there. And then we talk about, well, how in the world did he end up being the one that was chosen by the Arizona Senate to do the audit in Maricopa that led to the dog and pony show and the chaos that ensued, that at the very end they said, oh, no, we counted them, all the ballots match, and ignored an entire report that showed that the election results were fraudulent. That never made it to the media. The only thing the media said was 153,000 votes, 153,000 votes. Here's what it is. Everything matches, and the vote count is what it is. And Doug Logan said on my show in early 2021, after the election, I think it was June or July, Joe, I couldn't tell the truth because it would have been a constitutional crisis. So where are we right now? We're in the middle of a constitutional crisis. We can't get the SAVE Act passed. President Trump has done 2 executive orders. The radical left is still doing much of the same. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Stephanie Lambert. Sorry, I had somebody interrupt the podcast. We were joined by Stephanie Lambert, and we're going to talk through what's happening in the Coomer case. But more importantly, I want to hear what Stephanie Lambert has to say in relation to her case, which all charges were dismissed. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, but I want to hear how she sees things going forward. So we'll be right back.
Oh, hi. I almost didn't see you there. Welcome to DCF Buns, where you can find the freshest buns in town, if I do say so myself. Our master bakers teach class every week. So whether you're new to baking or trying to improve your culinary skills, we got you covered. And we can help you bake the cake of your dreams. We'll even clean your cake if you want. And if you don't want to bake anything yourself, we have loads of fresh buns available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Check us out at dcfbuns.com to learn more. DCF Buns. We keep the buns hot and the deals hotter. Buns.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let my people go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle. All right, so I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to go ahead and bring Stephanie in. I feel like I want to get one of those little pop cans of confetti, so I can because she did say that she would actually beat these cases, and because she knows she's deep in the middle of pretty much every election case across the country. She's an expert at this point, and I'm hoping that we don't need her expertise much into the future, and that she can go back to being a mom and a successful attorney. But man, she's been in the middle of it. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's a good day.
You literally beat the case, and you had this calmness about yourself. So tell us about the case. You still have one more left that they're. I mean, they have to, based on this. Throw that one out as well.
Right. We are on round 3 of 4. Okay. We just finished round 3. So first they moved to sanction me on the Sidney Powell case. I was local counsel in Detroit, which, by the way, we won't go into it right now, but the FOIA that was done on all the Detroit data showed a bunch of fraud, right? Years later, we have all the documents. So had discovery been granted on that case, we would have had that information timely. But they sanctioned me, they grieved me. I won both of those. It took a long time. I've been fighting this battle of lawfare for 6 years. This case, I was charged, and I want to talk about why we were targeted, but I was charged with my client, right? They were initially targeting my client, Adams Township Clerk Stephanie Scott, and no one would represent her. The township clerk said, hey, I'm not qualified on these election issues, which is nonsense. He just didn't want to pick the fight with the state on behalf of Stephanie. They were ordering her to delete data in violation of federal law. Okay, no one would help her. I got some calls. I don't live anywhere near her. That there's this clerk on the other side of the state. She needs help. They're attacking her. I reviewed the data. This is public information. I'm not telling you anything confidential at this point. Where in these emails, Jonathan Brader, the Michigan Director of Elections, was threatening her with misdemeanors if she didn't listen to his orders that are not lawful, by the way, to delete the data, to give her tabulator for an update that she was saying, hey, this is going to wipe the data on it. And the reason they were targeting her was she raised red flags as it relates to registration. She was in the qualified voter roll, looking at the voter roll for its accuracy in her township. She was elected in the 2020 election. She didn't run it. And she found fraudulent registrations. And she sent those to the state saying, hey, I need to clean these up. This isn't accurate. Look at the signature. No one would misspell their own name. This is a problem. So she was vetting each one on behalf of her township. And she raised a red flag she didn't realize because Jonathan Brader, there was a newsletter that went out to every clerk in Michigan prior to the 2020 election. And it was said, we're inflating the voter roll by 700,000 just weeks before the 2020 election, and you won't see a paper trail at the local level. Okay, we're doing it through the driver database. So she's looking at these registrations, and they realize that she's onto them, okay? So they say, did you delete your EPB data? Okay, they're instructing her to delete that and, sign a certificate that the logic and accuracy test went well for the tabulator, but they hadn't done the test yet. So she said, I can't sign this yet. They're doing all these things, okay? And trying to say she's not compliant to be able to remove her from her duly elected role as clerk, okay?
And she was just elected.
She was just elected, right? But she's raising too many red flags. She's looking at data. She's the queen of data. She has an engineering background, really smart woman, okay? Their worst nightmare. They want these clerks that don't know what's going on, and they essentially push the buttons that they tell them to push. So anyway, we say, now I start representing her. I said, she's not turning over the tabulator. She's required to house it according to law under lock and key. And she's doing that. If at some point you have a search warrant, which you have no legal basis to get one, then she'll turn it over to you. But until then, it's remaining under lock and key. Well, they went and lied about the law and the search warrant. got a search warrant, took her tabulator, okay? So, and then sent it through state lines to go get wiped at the vendor, okay? The vendor's messing with it. So the very data she's supposed to protect, they went and literally removed from Adams Township. But the EPB data, we retained an expert for her, which is normal in litigation. This is nothing special. And the expert was Ben Cotton. Ben Cotton's worked for the federal government. He's testified before Congress. Highly respected. Ben Cotton blew the whistle on Chinese spying on our military and in our data. Really respected expert. Ben found 11.5% discrepancy in the data. That is why we were targeted. Once that was revealed, that the EPB, the poll book, the precinct data of who voted, differed from what the township had certified to what the state had certified by 11.5%. And if you extrapolate that, that's roughly the 700,000 that was inflated. That is why we got targeted, to cover up their own acts. They literally made up law and drug our names through the mud.
Who are the systems?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What election systems?
The electronic poll book. Okay, it's used throughout the state of Michigan, and they wanted her to delete the EPB data. It's called EPB. And she wouldn't do it. It was a violation of federal law. And that was one of the things, as her attorney, I analyzed, because he's telling her, if you don't listen to my order, that's a misdemeanor. So, she's trying to figure out what to do here. The state's telling her to commit crimes. And if she deletes it, that is a crime. But the data showed who voted in that precinct. And that matched who, on the data that was analyzed by Ben Cotton, it matched what the prior clerk had certified, as it should. It also matched what the county had certified for her jurisdiction. But it differed when we did the FOIA to the state as to who the state had certified for that jurisdiction. Okay, and it's not the only, this is something I'm going to tell just you, Joe. This is not the only jurisdiction that the clerk retained her EPB data in Michigan. Okay, and Jonathan Brader testified at the hearing that they don't maintain a permanent record at the state level. Kurt Olson got that out of him. And so he was essentially instructing every clerk to delete the only copy of this data. Who is voting is getting altered after the election is certified and the results are reported at the local level. That was the big secret that they needed to cover up here. And that's why we got targeted. And it's had a horrible impact. You know this. Every state I go into to represent a client where I know the data, I know the evidence better than any attorney. I never wanted to be an election attorney. I got pulled into these cases, just much like Stephanie's, where someone called and said, we need someone. I have an oath. I took an oath to help people when they need to be defended and then when they need a lawyer. And I've done just that. It's not political. I just read a Detroit News article calling me a Republican lawyer. I've never told anyone I'm a Republican lawyer. They never asked. They've just given me label after label after label, called me a criminal, in order to prevent me from effectively representing people that they're targeting when they have evidence. That's the key here. They're targeting everyone with evidence. And I don't know if you know this, you should have her on your show. Vicki Bishop is the new Antrim County Clerk. She's currently under attack by Jonathan Brader and the same goons at the Secretary of State's office and the Attorney General's office, because here's what I think they're doing. She has access to the Antrim data. They counted Antrim 4 times, not up and down the ballot, but just the presidential race, and it never matched. Never, not one time, and then they just stopped counting, right? The total never matched in Antrim County, and then they said, we've done all these audits. It's fair, it's accurate.
What's the system? What system do they use?
In Antrim is Dominion.
Of course it is.
And as you know, we revealed in the expert reports, this is not, so case 4, okay, that is the expert reports. We're charged with, Matt DePerno's charged, I'm charged, where we revealed that they remote accessed the Dominion systems multiple times. Data was manipulated, data was wiped. We had international interference that we revealed. And because those reports, the judge said in his order when he dismissed Antrim, the Michigan legislature should look at this. This is highly compelling, but he found the case was moot because the Secretary of State said she did an audit, right? And that's why that case was dismissed. So then we became targets along with every expert. and you know the credentials of the experts, Ben Cotton, Jim Penrose, Jeffrey Lindbergh, right? They're the best qualified experts. Former technical director of counterterrorism from NSA, Ben Cotton's all of his cybersecurity experience. They were highly qualified former government or current government experts that said we have international interference along with these other problems and vote shifting. And they described by looking at the EMS and the files line by line how it happened. So we were targeted at that point. Sorry, 1 second, let me silence this. So we were targeted, the experts were targeted because they needed to tarnish our reputations then. So this has been 6 years of this nonsense. Ben Cotton had his security clearances revoked as a result of being targeted. I mean, just the damage that they've done is just awful. And finally, we get to an order yesterday where the judge literally said what I said all along, they're making up the law to charge us. And that's what we're finding in Oakland too. The Court of Appeals in Michigan, let me just tell you this is really big news. The courts usually, after a criminal trial takes place, lets you deal with all the errors, right? You list every error that took place at trial and you go to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals has reached down to the trial level in Oakland County where I'm charged and where Matt DePerno's charged, and they're taking the jury instructions of the made-up law and they're considering it in advance of trial. And the very judge that signed the order to do this is the judge that already ruled on the Ganetsky case, where they said the Secretary of State doesn't have this fictitious power that she continues to assert, that she has the ability to, be the god of elections and tell the clerks what they can and cannot do on the fly through emails. So it's a signal this is obviously going very, very well. I've said all along they've made up the law. So that too will work out here in the near future.
Okay, so I talked to Matt DePerno yesterday. I called him just to say, hey, how does this affect your case? And he's like, yeah, I'm anticipating that they're gonna have to drop this case. But the fact that you had to go through this, obviously you're gonna sue these people.
Well, I don't want to talk about next moves, okay? We won't talk about my personal next moves.
Okay.
I don't like to broadcast strategy, Joe. I have publicly said when they were bringing the charges, and you know this, I put in writing that I'm going to sue your butts off. Okay, you're making up the law. I didn't do anything illegal. You're disrupting my business. The Michigan Attorney General, you can go look. The press releases on her website from 2021 where I beat her. They're still there. So, so every client that would want to hire me that looks me up, the press releases come up. And she says, oh, I've asked, Stephanie Lambert be sanctioned, these Kraken attorneys, which we were right about everything from the Venezuelan piece to the Serbia piece to the China piece to everything that's happened.
Who was in the middle of all that again? Who was in the middle? Who was in the middle of all that again?
Venezuela.
Yeah, but
China, Serbia.
What was his name?
Are you asking for me to say the words Dominion? Sure.
No,
Dominion.
no. What is his name? He's
John Polis?
No, it's
Eric Coomer.
Yeah,
you have so many favorites to talk about. Don't you?
He's my favorite for sure. He's my favorite. he's my favorite Satanist. That frankly, as we trace it all back to 2005, he didn't do a very good job covering up his tracks either. And there, that gets me to the fact that we've won. We have all the information, and now what comes next? What's going to come next?
The federal government has all of the information, Joe. That's the key here. Okay, the federal government has all of the information,
but I've been attacked personally to the point where I paid $160,000 to these. They have basically intimidated. It's like witness intimidation.
It is witness intimidation.
Yeah.
It's 1512. Right, what they've done to you. They've tried to silence you. They tried to tell you to stop talking. You said, no, thanks.
Now they just filed a protection order.
Right, they sued you. And now they're trying to get you with a PPO, right? This is ridiculous. Let's go to some random court that you're not in front of and just someone please tell Joe to stop talking. The links that they're going to. But the federal government has everything under investigation. And from what I'm hearing, and it sounds like an internal war. Okay, right? There's people on the inside that still are trying to keep a lid on everything. And then there's other ethical people that have evidence and law violations and have investigations underway that these others can't stop it, but they're trying. I'll share with you, I'm aware that there's a massive money laundering investigation that's been
Yep.
underway as it relates to these vendors. And it's the same organization, right? They just keep changing name. It's a shell operation. Smartmatic's already indicted. And then,
Yeah,
now
but
we have
smart
the
match
new
for
name
bribery.
Liberty.
It's for bribery. You have Liberty Vote, and you have all this other stuff that's happened, and you have the same players. You have Longdecker, and you have Polis, and
All of the evidence is the same, though, right? It's just one big criminal organization that happens to change names. And look at Sheriff Chad Bianco in California. That is under Liberty. Okay, so they said, "Oh, we're new, we're Liberty, we're new name, right? Like, let's just forget this Dominion stuff. We're going to call ourselves Liberty. Doesn't that sound nice? Let us fool you that we're something different." Where the Scott Leinendecker's former CEO, or I think maybe current, of No Inc., right? Scott owned No Inc.
yeah, still does.
That guy had an open case with the SEC for foreign money laundering at the time Leinendecker hooked up with him to do No Inc., right?
Yeah.
So that guy is going to run Liberty. So what is kind of going on here is the criminal organization has been allowed, if you will, to continue its operation for a second, to allow further evidence, right? Extend statutes of limitations and see who's going to back off and who's going to keep going. And that's why Chad Bianco's investigation is critical. In California, if you don't know, what he has under investigation, he got a search warrant and he seized the ballots because they had one proposal as it related to redistricting on the ballot. That was it. Nothing else. No other race on this ballot. One issue. And there was approximately 50,000 more people recorded as voting than actually voted. So same issue again, right? Which is the size injection, the Smartmatic, the acronym SAEZ, the size injection that the Venezuelans that programmed it to begin with, right? Where they say this had nothing to do with Venezuela, except for every shell retains the same people that came from Venezuela, right? We have Ronald Morales and others that were from Venezuela and worked for Dominion through 2024, and now we call it Liberty. It's all the same thing, and we know that Smartmatic the Venezuelan government had ownership of Smartmatic, right? So this is a really, really serious crime. As you know, I'm talking preaching to the choir here, but this is why we've been targeted to silence us. It's just awful. So I'll repeat. Somebody said to me, they're like, "Well, now what?" And I said, "Well, eventually when they can't silence you with lawfare, right? They just make it look like you committed suicide." So just to remind everyone, I'm not suicidal. I have a lot of evidence. I know what it says. It's been
and you're
backed
well
up.
armed now, and you're well armed.
So I'm not suicidal. Okay.
And you're well armed.
This will be dealt with. It's just an internal fight that is taking a long time because they're doing it properly and they've allowed people within the organizations to either commit and continue or back away and be a whistleblower. And people are making choices. So it'll be very interesting. We were just talking on Donna Brandenburg's show, the network around Jonathan Brader. He wore dual hats for 2020, director of ERIC, director of the Michigan BOE, inflated the voter roll by 700,000, started targeting clerks that wouldn't delete the data. So he's not the only one, as we pointed out on Donna Brandenburg's show, that knows what was going on. He didn't act alone.
So I've heard some rumblings about arrests that are in process right now, and that we're having one shoe drop at a time, and there are people that are trying to stop those things from happening, and they're directly tied to Bill Barr and the Secretary of State. What was his name? Pompeo. And that these are people that are long-time friends of them, that they're having influence and having other people talk to them about, hey, slow this down, slow this down, slow this down. Now that we have the redistricting maps and the Supreme Court ruling, now they're like, oh crap, we're going to still win and have a majority of Republicans in both the House and the Senate in the midterms. And now they're freaking out because, and this is, by the way, this is all people in the inside telling me things. So I'm not asking you to do anything other than just tell me what you think the outcome is going to be, but that there are massive arrests happening that are going to be superseding, going all the way back to 2005, and that they're talking to people that I know that are in the middle of all of this, but that it's just a matter of time. Do you believe it's just a matter of time?
There's going to be accountability. There's evidence under review, a ton of evidence under review. I know there's been a lot of quiet work that I'm not part of. There's independent work going on in the federal government, and I have full faith in accountability. And I keep hearing that it's coming to Joe. And we know that 2 indictments dropped last week, and one being Fauci's, who got a pardon, advisor. And he was charged with the very charge that Jonathan Brader and others could have unsealed indictments on, of ordering the destruction of evidence and data under federal law. And I just want to say thank you to the people that have helped me throughout this process. You've been amazing covering this. Dan Hartman and Kurt Olson were fantastic in court. People wonder why, after 2 years, did it finally get dismissed yesterday? And Dan and Kurt, like a broken record, and I said it as well. This is not what the statute says. They were trying to invent law with some confidentiality status that doesn't exist in statute. And so yesterday, the new judge at the circuit court level finally read the entire case file and the transcripts and agreed and said, this is not what the law says, and dismissed it. But Dan and Kurt did a fantastic job with the cross-examination. And so while they targeted me, we, one, exposed evidence, the 11.5% difference in why they targeted us. But we got Jonathan Brader under oath committing to ordering the destruction of this evidence. So that's under oath. And you're asking about charges and what can happen here. He admitted it. He's not a Michigan lawyer. He's pretending like he is to these clerks, which, they know he's an attorney, just not. So that's unauthorized practice of law. He's telling them what Michigan law says and what they need to do, and threatening them with crimes. So there will be accountability in the near future.
You've been in the depositions for Eric Coomer specifically. I obviously still have this case in Colorado, but how many? I mean, can I ask you the question? How many times do you think he committed perjury in his depositions?
Well, I don't want to make any comments because some of that deposition is under protective order.
Okay.
So I
asked you, did he commit perjury?
It's 3:00. I have to go, Joe. But I think that in some of the court filings on the public docket, the redacted version is there, which is wild, right? You can compare, everybody can compare the Georgia transcript where he testified to get a president indicted. Okay. And he said, there's no access. Someone asked him, a grand juror raised their hand and said, sir, what's this about you stealing the election? And he said, one, I don't have the capability, like pretending like he's stupid and doesn't have the skill set. And two, I didn't have access, right? And so in the redacted transcript, you can see all day long, had access, right? There was VPN access that was never disclosed before, right? So I'm so sorry, I have to run now.
Okay. Hey, listen.
Thank you so much.
I love having you on. Thank you for all the work you do for me. And there is, by the way, I just want everyone to understand there is a huge need right now for finances for these mounting legal fees. And we're gonna, you can actually, I'll send by the end of the show, I'll say it, but Stephanie, it's still a lot, right? I mean, you're talking about millions of dollars that have been spent on these cases.
It's still ridiculous. I just, in defending everything that they've done, it's just been awful. I can't even go into all those details at this moment, Joe, but I hope that you're able to find some help to continue fighting, because you have a team behind you. And, Patrick, same thing. Patrick's a true hero, just like you are, right? And you're only speaking your mind and the truth and the evidence that and you've been targeted for doing so. It will work out. It's just going to take time just like my situation did.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So have a great day. Thank you so
All
much.
right, you too. All right, so I want to preface a bunch of things in this. We have a massive amount of corruption, massive amount, and this case with Eric Coomer is he's responsible for the indictment against President Trump in Georgia. So Eric Coomer went down there and in that case did everything he could to get President Trump himself charged. I think that needs to I need to say that out loud one more time. Eric Coomer went down and he lied in a grand jury investigation. He lied about President Trump. He lied about himself. He lied about what he had capability of doing. He lied about his act. He lied about everything. And he tried to make himself look like Snow White. But the reality was the complete opposite. He is responsible for the indictment against President Trump, personally responsible for the indictment against President Trump. If you want to wonder why Eric Coomer is no longer in the country, is he knows that an indictment is coming. He knows it. This guy is a serial bad person. Now let's talk about this. There are several posts that I want to go through, and I'm gonna kind of go a little early today. And man, there's a lot of posts here. Let's start with the first one. This is a post that was put up by Mike Engelman. He said the judge in the Tina Peters case should be arrested, disbarred, and prosecuted. Judicial misconduct is what's happening. And what the judge in the Tina Peters case has done has been nothing short of wrong. Let me see. Let's go to the next one if we can. This is from Denver Fail. One of the most disturbing pieces of evidence that the Democrats used to sentence Tina Peters was a testimony of Matt Crane. Matt Crane, Colorado County Clerks Association director, claimed death threats to himself, his wife, and children at Tina Peters' sentencing, blaming her actions on statewide trauma and violence. Zero public evidence exists. No police records, messages, screenshots, arrests, or court exhibits back his claim, only his repeated public statements. Rubenstein plans to reuse his unverified victims impact assertions at resentencing to justify prison time. Peters called it manufactured narrative, inflated harm with no receipts to punish a clerk while protecting the system. Perfect angle to demand proof, challenge aggravated factors, and expose selective enforcement. This trial was a sham, and it's all about to come out, and it's going to include NGOs. And here's what Matt Crane had to say. It's impossible to overestimate the damage Peters has done. In a real and specific way, her actions have led directly to death threats and general threats to the lives and the families of people who work in elections. She has willingly aided individuals who believe that violence was the way to make a point. She has knowingly fueled a fire. Now, here's the problem. Here's what he didn't tell everyone. His wife, for nearly 20 years, worked for Dominion Voting Systems, dating back to the early days of Eric Coomer being the chief architect at Sequoia Voting Systems, all the way back then. And it just seems really convenient that you have a guy who, by the way, his wife didn't take on his name, right? Made sure she hid that information, like so many other criminals in the world of politics. And so I had to respond. I wanted to respond to that post, and I had this to say about Matt Crane. Matt Crane is a pariah, a type of betrayer that can only happen in a system rife with devilish chameleons, whose only job is to steal your voice and ultimately the dignity of being a free man or woman. A liar of epic proportions, a traitor to everything good the nation stands for. That's the reality of who Matt Crane is. Matt Crane is he's not just a terrible human being. He's a disgusting human being. Disgusting to the worst amount. He's the most disgusting type of human being you can have. A coward and a betrayer, a traitor. And then I wanted to then get to, because I'm going to kind of wrap all this stuff up and what I've been talking about. The Victor Marx is in the mayor or in the governor's race in Colorado. And I keep being asked, who am I supporting? Well, I am supporting Scott Bottoms. Scott Bottoms is the person that I have endorsed. I've met with Barb Kirkmeyer. She is an amazing person. And so there's a gubernatorial candidate forum that's happening on May 6th. And one of the reasons why Victor Marx says that he would not be in it is because we have an independent candidate in Greg Lopez that's sitting on the panel. So then Greg Lopez came out and said, I will relinquish my seat. I will step out of the race completely and give you my seat so that you can just have this be with other Republican candidates. Well, instead of actually doing that, Victor Marx decided that he wanted to go do a show. He wanted to go do a show of himself at the same time. So he's going to do a live stream at the same time this is happening. And so I had to respond. And when I responded, I said, Victor Marx is the Biden of the Republican Party governor's race for Colorado. He has to talk slowly because of the many drugs he's on. Keep in mind, you don't just come off psychotropic drugs, which means he's most likely still stuffing himself with these drugs to function. It's the only reason he would not debate. It's way too unpredictable for his handlers to debate or get out of the race. Pretty simple. He won't get out of the race. And he, frankly, I just got a text message from someone that's in another state. He's in Ohio. Let me just show you what's happening right now. So rather than talk to the people in Colorado, this guy is going to other states and having meetings there. See if I can find it here really quick. Give you some information on this. It says, hey, Joe, we spoke via video call several months back about Freedom Law School. I wanted to get your thoughts on Victor Marx for governor. He came out to Akron and spoke with us. Would appreciate your insights on him as a potential governor. Thanks for all you do. So why is he in Ohio talking about his run in Colorado? Why is he not in Colorado? Why would he go all the way there? I can tell you why. Because they paid for a bunch of people and they paid him to come there. So he's going to go to Ohio because he can't actually go and sit and with the people because he doesn't represent the people. So it gets worse. John Fabricatori, he's a really good dude. He said this. Or how about you? Because one of the things that Victor did above it, go to the one above it. Let's just start there. He says, John, I just want to make sure that you saw this after your visit on Ryan's radio program. Victor says, John, I welcome the opportunity to meet in person. I thought through some of the assumptions about my life and work. I believe a face-to-face conversation would bring helpful clarity. Please consider this an open invitation to visit our leadership training center in Black Forest at a time that works for you. You can also have members of my team present to provide additional context where needed. I look forward to connecting. DM me your contact info respectfully, Victor. So John responded this way. Or how about you come out into the light and just tell the truth? Why meet you in private with your team present? The public deserves the truth, not backroom shenanigans. How many women and children did you physically remove from ISIS and put in a safer environment? Not through toys and prayers, but physically. Did you enter those countries through a religious visa or do faith work? And did you take pictures? And if you were operating security teams, take pictures as if you were operating security teams. Admit publicly that you were not a retired Marine and that you never deployed. I also served before the Iraq War, and I am not a combat veteran. There's no shame in serving. You didn't kill a man when you were 7. I don't need your retooling prayer. We aren't friends. I despise people who use religion and falsely claim to save children to increase their own profit. Otherwise, I'll meet you in public alone. So Victor then had something to say about that. So I want to read the one below that is Victor responding. Sir, you don't actually know me, and you don't have any courtesy to call or meet with me before making these outlandish, non-factual claims about my character. This is not a pursuit of truth. It is an accusation without diligence. I have no problem standing in the light. I spent decades there working alongside law enforcement, military personnel, and government agencies in some of the darkest places in the world. There are documented cases, established partnerships, and credible individuals can verify the work we have done, not for attention, not for profit, but because lives were at stake. To be clear, I've never claimed to be a retired Marine or misrepresented my service. Our international work, pay attention to that part, by the way. I'm going to come back to it. Our international work has always been conducted within legal frameworks and in coordination with appropriate authorities. I do not fabricate my past. My story is what it is. There are no shenanigans here. I've been invited to you to meet, and that invitation stands, not in secret, but in a setting where facts, context, and accountability matter. I have team members available to sit down with you, including men with significant operational and government experience. Mark Oz Geist is part of my team, and you certainly know his credibility. There are others as well who can speak firsthand of the nature and legitimacy of this work. John, slow this down. Come meet face to face before continuing to push claims that are simply not true. It will serve you far better to understand the facts than to keep doubling down on assumptions. If you're genuinely interested in truth, I'm available. If you are looking for a public spectacle, I am not. So John had to respond. This is really important. John responded, I owe you nothing. You decided to run for governor, a statewide high-profile race where people should verify everything you claim. I don't need a public spectacle that is your own finger pointing back at you. Again, meet me one-on-one and have the conversation, not teams of people. Yes, I respect Mark. You are not him. Easily done. Meet for coffee. No one has to know where, and you can speak your truth. So then I said, then he decided that he didn't like that answer. So Victor answered, here at our training center is key to you understanding who we are and what we do. It will move the conversation much further, faster. And it goes downhill from there, right? John just didn't respond because at this point, why would he? Why would he? Let me make sure he didn't respond before I say he didn't respond. No, he did not respond. And so John, by the way, 23 years in the Border Patrol, I had to respond to a part of that where he said, I have never claimed to be retired. Okay. Let's go out, put that up if we would. Let's put up here we go. John is not Victor. John has 23 years of service at the BP and frankly has exposed something here that I'm not sure that you are catching. Meet me in person alone. Why is this significant? Well, why is it such a hard ask? Keep in mind, Victor fabricated the attacks on his wife and children. He did it again with me and Scott Bottoms, making indictments at events and scenarios that never happened. Fast forward, he did the same thing to Barb Kirkmeyer for not standing up by and listening to Victor's daughter speak. Victim mentality with a narrative of bullshit. Meet me alone in public is a kiss of death for a man so consumed with himself and the narrative they like would not function properly. The voices would most likely take over, and there would be what comes next, irrational, erratic behavior that convinces him of things that simply never happened or are happening. Or meet in public for coffee by yourself. Pretty simple. Now, one of the things that I said, and I added it to this post for Victor Marks, see if I can find it here real quick, is that Victor Marks, let me see if I can find it real quick. There we go. So underneath that, let me see if I can send this to you guys really quick. Copy link. Go over here. Let me drop this for you. You guys can find it easier. Here's that. So one of the things that Victor said is he had never claimed to be retired. And it says, I have never claimed to be a retired Marine. Well, this is awkward. Yes, you have. See picture below. Tell me again how you never. And by the way, my issue with you, Victor, is you shit on everyone while lying about nearly everything you have accomplished. And so if you look at that picture, it says Republican candidate for governor of Colorado, U.S. Marine, and in parentheses it says RET, which means retired, right? And humanitarian. Now, I don't know that title of humanitarian, but this was an invitation they was sent to have somebody come visit with him, and he claims to be a U.S. Marine retired. It's his work. It's not mine. I didn't make this up. So it's anyway. I think that as we kind of unpack who is it that I'm going to support and not support, first of all, I'm not the chair yet. And he's made it very clear that I can't run the Republican Party. Now you have a guy that literally, I don't even know. He won't debate anyone, sat above at the assembly, ran around with 8 or 9 security guards all around him. Again, I don't have a problem with Victor Marx being a cosplay person. I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with the fact that he has this discard mentality. You have to come to my training center. I've been to the training center. You don't get anything from the training center. There's nothing there. There's no there. You got a podcast room. You got a unfiltered, illegal shooting range. It's illegal, sorry, but you don't have proper ventilation at all. And frankly, they could come in and shut you down, and they probably should. That's not a proper shooting range. It's not properly encased. It doesn't have a proper backbone to it or infrastructure to it, and it does not have proper ventilation. It's illegal. Okay, I'm just going to tell you right now, if there's anything illegal, that's illegal. You can't have a shooting range like that with OSHA would come in and shut them down. Now, whatever they decide to do with this, if that happens, great, but it's not legal. Okay, and you got a house. So you got a house, you got a couple of berms, you got a dog and pony. Here's some sort of, I don't know, whatever the thing's called, a RV, a pull behind RV that you supposedly got shot at through by not a random person, but your brother-in-law. I don't know how to come back from all this. Like, I don't know how to look at what is happening with Victor Marx and say that any part of what Victor Marx says is legitimate, because he's not willing to have a conversation with the public. Just come out and talk about what your platform is. Like, get on the stage with other candidates. You said you didn't want to do it with me because somewhere along the line you called counties in advance, said if Oltmann's going to be on there, I'm not going to be on there. It's always something. It's always something. It's always someone else. It's always, we can't have it because Greg Lopez. Greg Lopez said, great, I'll step off. You come on, you debate Barb Kirkmeyer and Scott Bottoms, and we'll go. And then he all of a sudden just ghosts him and says, that excuse didn't work. So now what do I do next? And for the people out there that say that Victor Marx is their guy, great, he's your guy. Congratulations. Let him be your guy. But if you're not holding people accountable and they are not answering to the people now, how the heck are you going to have him answer to the people when he's in the governor's office? This dog and pony show has got to stop. This has nothing to do with who I support in this election cycle. None. Because if Barb Kirkmeyer becomes the governor's candidate, I'm going to stump for it. I'm going to make sure that she wins. And if Scott, I pray that Scott wins. If Scott, I'm going to stump for Scott. I'm going to make sure he wins. And God forbid that Victor Marx, the guy that can't be accountable to people and doesn't think that we're just basically just to be, I don't know what, we're dogs. He can just step on us. That guy becomes governor, then I have to, every job, if I'm in the state chair, I have every responsibility to get him elected. But until that point, we've got to start asking better questions and vetting people not based on our feelings. Has nothing to do with feelings. It has everything to do with the fact and the activity and the behavior of the individual, not me, right? And by the way, nobody's coming to try and kill Victor Marx. Nobody even cares or even knew who he was before he ran. They didn't know. A vast majority of the entire country did not know. So I think that is important when we start looking at what it is we're actually asking for. We're asking for someone to be accountable, and he can't be accountable. Colorado's a mess, though. Colorado's a mess. The rest of the country's a mess. It's obvious that the government is at war with itself, and it's not willing to do what's necessary in order to protect the future generation. But President Trump is. And so I have a great amount of I have confidence that we're going to go in the right direction and things are going to turn themselves around. I want you guys to have a great Friday. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more, all those things. Yeah, this is kind of the weirdest podcast ever because my door kept opening. I had people that were walking through. I had dogs that were barking. It's just a matter of, sorry, I'm not at home right now. And so I'm not in the studio. But anyway, do everything you can to, on your side, to have a great weekend, spend time with your family. And if you give me a little thumbs up on the way out, a little thumb out, and then be the one to share this. And if you're a Victor Marx fan, God bless you, man. Whatever. just do the math. Just check into it yourself. All right. And if you come out the other side and you're still a Victor March fan, I'll still love you. I will. I won't think that you got this one right, but then again, you think I got it wrong. So we'll leave it at that. All right. So let's pray us out. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for these beautiful people, and thank you for the challenges that you put in our lives, and for the people you put in our lives that have been able to get us through some of these difficult times. Father, we know that this was never meant to be easy, and that life is never meant to be fair. And so I just ask that you give us the ability to have grace for others, and that we may continue to fight to restore you to our community, to our country, and to the world, and fight against these evil, just global forces that are basically treating us as if we are their slaves, and that we're insignificant. We know, Father, that we are significant, and we knew that this was going to be a fight. And we just we ask you to give us the strength and the courage, and to push forward to actually get to a place where we can accomplish great things. Father, we also ask for accountability. We ask those people to be held accountable for the things they've done to hurt our country and to hurt our people, our brothers and sisters. And I say these things, Father, humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, I'll see you guys in a little bit. And yeah, I wanted to go through more of the case with Coomer, but it's not fully dry. I want to show you this one on this deposition. You're not going to believe what the court decided. It's crazy, but we'll do that next week. All right, take care. Have a great weekend. You got some cleanup to do.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the nights. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the